Now it's over to you. You've heard what they've got to say. If you have a question, please put your hand up and Richard will come and ask. So, go for the gentleman close to you.
Yes, thank you. Just a question for Neal, really. Neal, we've got one fire engine that works out of the Ridge and how many out of Bohemia? One at the same time. So what you're doing is taking one from the Ridge, which is you've just said 60, 70%, so 30% from the Ridge that covers this area here, against 20% that you will add to the Bohemia Road. Surely that doesn't add up?
This is, in terms of most of the risk is in the Bohemia Road fire station area. So if the whole time fire engine from the Ridge was at Bohemia Road, then we could attend significantly more high-risk households with 2 fire engines, and that again is a wish of the Fire Authority that we should get 8 firefighters, a minimum of 8 firefighters to an incident as quick as possible.
Mark, would you like to?
Yeah, if we're going to talk about station grounds, can we clarify whether we're talking admin grounds, as says in the Hastings Review, or actual turnout grounds?
In response to that, the question has been asked whether it's on admin ground. What I would say to that is the analysis was based on the same models that have been used historically in terms of borough action plans, service plans, so that's what's been done. Admin areas.
So these stats are based on admin areas, yeah? Not how fast we can get to you. So the fact that 72% of all incidents occur on Bohemia Road's admin ground do not mean they occur on the Ridge's turnout ground. Cheers.
Next question, please. So for those of you who didn't hear, the question was put to Councillor Fawthrop as to why he voted the way he did.
As I said initially, moving fire engines around is the Chief Officer's operational decision, not the Fire Authority's. If we had not gone to consultation, if I'd not voted to go to consultation, it could have gone back to the Chief Officer. He could have moved the fire engine without any consultation whatsoever. That is why I voted to go to consultation, so you would know, so we could find out what the people of Hastings wanted.
Hello? Excuse me. Hello?
I'd like to point out, actually, what we've just seen there, in quite technical language, I'm going to add, is you saying it's the Fire Authority's decision to make, and you saying it's the Chief Fire Officer's decision to make, both of which are shirking responsibility for this decision because they've seen how unpopular it is.
Andy's just going to reply to that.
Yeah, certainly there's no shirking of responsibility. I'm very comfortable with the position we're in. The day-to-day movement of fire appliances, fire engines, can change on a daily basis, depending on the level of risk, depending on the incidents that we've got going on at the time. For a substantive move of a fire engine to another location, we are required by the Department for Communities and Local Government, DCLG, to consult with the community, and it is a matter for the Fire Authority where they place their fire engines and their fire stations, the duty systems that are worked and the number of firefighters that are on duty.
Phil.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Turner. I'm the Council for Baird Ward, and I would like to bring some of the concerns of the people I represent to this meeting. I've been expressing for a long time, along with the people I represent, the amount of developments taking place on the Ridge and how this would figure when the link road came. And also, as part of that concern, was what's keeping our fire station on the Ridge. All the talk we've heard today from both Councillor Fawthrop and the officers of the Fire Brigade is little more than a euphemism for cuts. That's what it's all about. Cut, 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 cut. I challenge their analysis about areas in Bohemia being the most deprived ward. The most deprived ward in this borough is Baird Ward. There's over 500 houses, townhouses, that are linked together. A fire would spread very, very quickly indeed across those areas. And I have to say, what you're seeing here today is the same thing that's happening with our local hospital. The MP has backed that. She's not been here today to have the guts to back what's happening here. And I think it's an absolute disgrace on every member of the Conservative Party to sit there and try to pretend that all this is about improving our services. It's just anything but. Thank you.
Councillor Scott's just got something to say.
Can I? Okay. In terms of consultation process, I was the only fire authority member actually to vote against going out to consultation on the proposals. You're either fundamentally opposed to the proposals and therefore the consultation process, or you're not actually. I was opposed. I was the only member there on the day that opposed it. The reality is that it is financially driven in terms of, I understand the officers will say it's based on risk and so on and so forth, but the reality is there is a funding gap that needs to be looked at. We understand that, and the financial challenges are very, very clear. But I've sent several points across to the Chief Fire Officer and one of the ACOs, Diana Williams, and that is very much about don't look to frontline firefighter roles, look to back office functions, because there are plenty of back office functions there in terms of sharing services that we could look at, whether it's human resources, whether it's financial, finance, whether it's legal services and so on and so forth. So I think there's an opportunity to, for officers, I'm sure, to go back based on a number of things really. Clearly the consultation process here in Hastings, I could have told you what the consultation process would actually throw up, to be honest, because you're proof of that this morning by coming along, and this afternoon by coming along. So the consultation process will come to the Fire Authority in December. And I'm hoping that based on not just the turnout here, but clearly the petitions that are signed, clearly all of those concerns and objections raised by local people about attendance times and how that will affect them. Certainly we're getting many calls from the Fairlight areas, the Pet areas, some of those rural areas that will be extremely exposed as a result of moving resources, redeploying resources and so on. So look to back office functions. I've said you can share services, you can save money, and that will not affect our frontline firefighter roles. We need to be saying that loudly and clearly, and I think we are this morning. I'm sure our officers will go back with that message, and I'm sure the consultation process in December will tell us exactly that. So I could have told you what was going to be, the outcome anyway.
Thank you. My name's John Hodges. I'm councillor for Old Hastings Ward, and I think by any stretch of the imagination or a Pareto ranking, we've got to be very, very high on the at-risk list. We have houses there, 16th century, didn't even know what flame retardancy was in those days. There's no natural fire breaks between them. There are twittens which you couldn't even get a fire tender up. It's only the alacrity of the service that has saved these things from disappearing. We actually, or you actually, evacuated the street last year in Tackleway because of a conflagration on the East Hill. Have you considered this, that we're next to the most notorious tinderbox in the whole area? We have houses that have no flame retardancy. I mean, we talk about other areas of the town. Yes, I mean, Mike's ward is very bad. You've got stacked with modern furniture, polyurethane foam, byproducts, carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, all the things that will kill you before flame will get to you. In the old town, I think the flame will get you first. It's a tinderbox. And have we not even considered, as an eventuality, to look at proper risk assessment down at street level, where you take all these factors into account, considering when you're going to get there 5 minutes later? What are you going to do with water? Water is no good. When you have a fire that has an order of magnitude greater conflagration than when it started, the viscosity is too low. It's unable to separate the radiant energy from the source of fuel. It's unable to, and that is the thing that causes the fire to spread. I would suggest that every council, should this go ahead, has got a massive bill to pick up for risk assessment right down to street level.
Who wants to take Neil?
Let him answer.
Hang on, we're just going to have a response from Andy, and then we'll go to another question. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the points there are fairly valid. Yeah, there's a number of risk assessments that are carried out, particularly in the business community. The Fire Precautions Act was repealed, and we had the Regulatory Reform Act. That places the onus on the responsible persons in business premises to carry out a due risk assessment. Our technical fire safety officers will inspect those risk assessments. It is down for the individuals. Our operational staff, both at Bohemia Road Fire Station and at the Ridge, will carry out operational planning exercises, looking at properties, looking at water supplies, and they will have contingency plans in place to deal with those incidents.
We have today, but you're destroying them.
Andy?
We're not destroying anything.
Andy, can I just get this into like normal language, if that's possible? Whatever the statistics that you have said and highlighted today and the risks that we've got here, and you've said it's within 8 minutes, the fire cover, yes?
Yes.
It's still worse. We are going to be worse off. We will have worse fire cover in Hastings and in the villages than what we've got currently, right?
Undoubtedly, there will be some areas that's highlighted in the report that will have a slower response time. We know that. We know that. Can I just put something into perspective? 72% of all the incidents in the Hastings area are dealt with in Bohemia Road area. Hang on a second. Hang on a second, please.
Wait, let him finish. Please let him finish.
I'm quite happy. We finish at 1 o'clock, and I'm quite happy to finish at 1 as prescribed. Please let me finish. Okay? Whether you disagree with 72%, the majority of incidents happen in the Bohemia Road area. When the Ridge Fire Station turn out from their station, what you have left at the Ridge is what is being proposed within the recommendation, is for the rest of that period of time you have a retained appliance on call at the Ridge. If the retained appliance is not available, excuse me, can I just finish please? If the retained appliance is not available, then we automatically bring in an appliance to stand by at the Ridge Fire Station. That will still continue. Okay, but what I'm trying to say to you is the majority of occasions at the Ridge turnout, they are not here. They are not available to be deployed because they're already attending an incident in Bohemia Road's ground. But you have a retained appliance here. What you've got is a retained appliance here. Okay, thank you.
If I can just, before we take any more questions, can we make sure we're asking questions and not making big statements so that we get through some more questions? Lady in pink, please. Yeah, we'll come round to you. We are coming, but just down here, we've got a question here.
Hi, the question is simply, if the only difference, between leaving a retained fire engine there and manning the ones, have you factored in the fact that all those people have now got to travel into the station instead of physically being there before they leave? Having a parked engine there won't help, will it?
All of that is factored in all of the data analysis. Yes, it's all factored in terms of travel times, response times for retained duty system firefighters to respond to the station. We talk about a 5-minute delay in turnout. That is what we allow our retained duty system firefighters to respond to the station. That is what the figures are based on, and that is taken into account.
Just let Michael.
Hello. I just wanted to say that case study that I read out earlier, one of the retained engines from the Ridge did attend that fire, and it took them 6 minutes and 46 seconds turn-in time. Turn-in time means, firefighters had to be called in from home and then get to the Ridge. And then they go out, and it took an extra 2 minutes and 26 seconds. So that's like 9 minutes. 9 minutes to get to that fire on this case study from a retained engine.
Hello, yes. You said just now that you wanted to put this in perspective, and you talked about the 70-odd% over in Bohemia. I live at pet level in a timber house. I understand at the moment that the time that it would take an appliance to get to our house is in the order of 8 minutes. Can you say clearly how long it will take me for a fire engine to get to our house from Bohemia Road when the traffic is at its heaviest? Can you tell me that, please?
Well, in truth, I think nobody here could tell you exactly, because that will depend time of day, road conditions. You would be looking at probably another 4 minutes on top of what you currently would get in.
Another question, please.
My point kind of ties in with that.
No, if you've got the microphone, then it's your question. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's right.
This lady has the microphone. Can you let her question first?
Yeah.
My point kind of ties in with what this gentleman's just said. I live in one of the villages in Westfield. Settlescombe Road North is quite often closed due to car accidents, and there's a lot of caravan sites and sort of travel homes around there. What's the plan going to be for when Settlescombe Road North is shut to actually get a fire service out to the villages and caravan sites?
Who wants to take that? Do you want to take that or you?
If we are given advance notice of road closures and it affects our attendance times, then we can move appliances and make standby moves to make sure that risk is covered. Every day there will be accidents on roads. Quite often the A27 is shut. You can't get between Lewes and Eastbourne. It affects turnout times. That is beyond our control, but we do factor in as much as we can. In terms of the key message is prevention is better than cure. The Fire Authority have invested a lot of money in employing community safety advisors, as well as having our operational fire staff, our firefighters, visiting people in their homes and fitting smoke alarms. It isn't necessarily about whether you've got a timber property or the age of your property. It is about the lifestyle that you lead. We know people who smoke are more likely to have a fire. It's these factors that we are looking at as just one of the many factors in determining somebody's vulnerability from fire. Okay, yeah, I understand that. The figures that we have and that have been presented to the Fire Authority are taken from a variety of different sources, and they indicate someone's what we call propensity towards having a fire. That doesn't mean everybody in that area is going to have a fire, but there's a strong propensity towards somebody having a fire. And I'm glad that you don't smoke, and that's great. And so hopefully you will be a lot safer than some of your colleagues who do smoke.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. We'll move on to the next question.
Right. My question is, I have here, which no doubt a lot of you do have, the Hastings Review Executive Summary, East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service. Now, up there, a member of the panel just said that there will be a downgrading of the Ridge Station, not a closure. But there's a paragraph here that says, data analysis indicates that if both pumping appliances were based at Bohemia Road, the provision of a fire station at the Ridge would not be required, as it would make little contribution to reducing the risk of life-threatening incidents. Now, isn't that a contradiction? And please explain.
No, it's not a contradiction at all. Just to be quite clear, coming back to what I said originally, the Fire Authority determine how many fire stations we have, how many fire engines, etc., and the duty systems that we work. The Fire Authority determine the standards, so we have a service charter standard. The Fire Authority determine how many, on what percentage of occasions we will turn out to life-threatening incidents with a minimum of 8 firefighters. And the Fire Authority set that. The piece of the article that you're referring to, the analysis that has been done, actually says that you actually don't need a fire station at the Ridge. The Fire Authority have determined that they don't want to close the Ridge Fire Station, that they want to maintain it as a retained duty system fire station and to relocate the appliance to Bohemia Road. That is a matter for the Fire Authority, and the Fire Authority will vote on that on the 13th of December.
Okay.
Based on this review, isn't it?
We have what is called an IRMP forum, which is an integrated risk management planning forum. In our previous, what's called an IRMP, we were tasked by the Fire Authority to look at service provision in Hastings. That forum met a couple of months ago, I think it was now, where we provide a presentation, we provide the evidence that we have collated and say, here's the evidence, Fire Authority members, what would you like to do with this? And that group come up with some recommendations. Those recommendations then go to the Fire Authority Policy Resources Panel, who then determine whether or not that should go to the Fire Authority meeting. And that is what happened on this occasion. Fire Authority members made a decision based around recommendations on the evidence that we have provided.
Sarah.
There was just something that comes out of the point, the very good point that the gentleman at the back's made, and something that Neal picked up on earlier, and that there would be no job cuts in this. I'd like some confirmation and some clarity about this, because that's my understanding, whether the ridge is downgraded or whether it stays it is, that there will be some of our most experienced firefighters will be asked to reapply for their jobs, and there will be a cut in the number of firefighters. I would like to know how many firefighters we will lose if we go down to a retained fire station at the Ridge Fire Station, please, and also if it stays as it is, whether you are going to look at this as a cost-saving exercise.
You can, yes.
If I can just come back on that back one, which was, where do the Fire Authority get the information? It is the fire officers. The people on the Fire Authority are not experts in firefighting, so they have to listen to the advice of the chiefs to make that decision. So part of that is the decision that they've already made to go out to consultation. Part of what's happening today, and at the Hastings Residents Association, which the fire chief came to, and Jamie came down to as well, to explain to the public, is to get the public's view fed back in, which is why we're asking you to sign petitions, etc., and to get your views heard, and to report in. If any of you can go online to report your concerns in, that's what the Fire Authority in December have to make that decision. If you don't write in and give them the information, then they have to listen to the chiefs.
So Andy, if you just want to respond to Sarah.
Yeah, certainly. In terms of, let me cover the job side of things first. The proposals would mean that there would be 4 less firefighters and 4 less watch managers. Watch managers are in charge of the watch. So in total, if the recommendations were approved by the Fire Authority, there would be 4 firefighters who would move, and there would be 4 watch managers who would be moved as well. There would be no job losses, there would be no redundancies as a result of the proposals. They would simply be relocated. And we've also heard as well around back office staff should be the first to go before frontline staff. We are already making a number of savings proposals and efficiency savings in terms of our back office staff. Because they're what we are called Green Book members of staff, they aren't as protected as our operational colleagues, so a number of those will be facing redundancy. In terms of the service that you receive, if you have a life-threatening incident, in other words a house fire or a road traffic collision where a person is trapped, regardless of what the proposals are, you will still receive 2 fire engines with a minimum of 8 firefighters on to attend those incidents. But in terms of the overall establishment, yes, there will be 8 less posts, but you won't see that as members of the public.
Phil.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to the decision making, I think it's clear that all local authorities, the Fire Authority is no different. A number of recommendations are put forward by professional officers and members, either elected members locally at Hastings Borough Council, East Sussex County Council, etc. The Fire Authority is the same. They base their decisions on the reports of professional officers. But of course, we're there to challenge too, and some of us do challenge. I've probably been a thorn in the side of the East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service for quite a few years. I'm sure officers would agree at times that I've probably been almost the only one to challenge officers and some of their recommendations or concerns. I think it's helpful actually in terms of the decision making that the Fire Authority is a public meeting, and actually everybody here could turn up if they wanted to the public meeting and express a view, because it is important that, you know, I mean, we talk about people power. This is people power here this morning. Come along to the Fire Authority meeting, express your views, not just in the petitions, but come along and listen to the process yourselves, because meetings generally are boring. They can be boring, but I suspect on the 13th of December it may be slightly, shall we say, boisterous at times. In relation to the Ridge Fire Station, I think it's important to understand that if the station is downgraded, I personally believe that the fire service would revisit that after about a year maybe, and then that may be another opportunity to look to actually take the station out of the equation. So it is important to actually make your views known now, I'm hoping we can do that. I think, Chair, personally, it would be really, really helpful for the purpose of the meeting, and certainly officers, if people to, even by a vote of a show of hands, if you like, show their intentions in terms of whether they're for this or against this at this meeting, because I'm pretty convinced that pretty well 99% of the people here, or actually 100%, will be absolutely opposed. That would be helpful, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. We'll just go for a few questions and then we'll do the vote. Okay.
Can I ask what percentage of the time the retained appliance is available for calls?
On average, over the last 5 years, about 40%. 60%, correction, yeah. 40% of the time it's not been available.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go here and then we'll go here.
Sorry, can I just come in on that? Somebody just said why. For a variety of reasons. In essence, it's because we have a lack of members of the community who want to be retained duty system firefighters. That is predominantly why.
Order.
And we would be more than willing, please, if there's people here who would like to apply, become a retained duty system firefighter at the Ridge. And then we can ensure its maximum availability. We had a similar situation in Hurst-Monceau, where we were looking at quite seriously at whether we could maintain that fire station through a serious recruitment drive. We managed to up that availability to nearly 90% on some occasions. We need people like you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to a question just here.
Sorry?
Yeah,
hi. My name is Stuart Murphy, member of the GMB. I think from what I've been listening to so far, I think the Fire Authority is a bit arrogant to assume that it's a matter for them. Your decision has a bearing on us as taxpayers, you know what I mean? And you should go back and think about what the opposition view is here. We are opposed to these new changes, and they should not happen. So, in regards to the Conservatives, they should apologise to the people of Hastings and say we're sorry that we weren't on the ball, and to take some form of responsibility for their actions. Thank you.
I'll just say on that one that you can't, I'm not a politician myself, but you can't put it fully at the Conservatives' door because it was a Fire Authority decision, and that covers that's cross-party, so you can't fully blame that. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to know why we've got another one of these consultations again with options which are really not what the public want, because it's now the second consultation that we've had and they don't seem to be consulting the public's opinion about it at all. Secondly, the statistics that were provided, I'd like to know why they seem to only focus on the Hastings area and didn't seem to focus on any other areas that the Orr station seems to visit. Certainly reading the report, that's how it reads, and I'd like some indication why that is the case or not the case.
Neal?
Just in terms of the recommendations of the Fire Authority. In terms of the statistics, the Fire Authority asked us to look at service provision in the Hastings area, and that is what we've done. Waterline villages.
What I can expand there is that what's been looked at is the impact of calls on neighbouring stations, and there's pretty negligible effect in terms of service provision reviews of the neighbouring areas. That hasn't happened at this point. But I think you have to also bear in mind that with all service provision, review is ongoing, risk profiles can change, and we've heard about link roads, that's been analysed, that was part of the review. There's obviously housing developments, and of course the service will continually review its risk.
We'll let Sarah talk now.
You're absolutely right. That doesn't include areas that are going to be affected. We have had hundreds, and we've had thousands now of people signing petitions, and they are in places like Pett, Guestling, Rye. They're places that you haven't taken in consideration in this consultation. And worse than that, and you just pointed out, this consultation, if anybody's gone on the website and actually read it, what attempts did you make to make that easy to understand? You've spoken in technical language where you've called it whiskey appliance, whatever. Now, I do understand that, but the general public don't. What attempts did you make to make this as easy and as accessible and to the people that actually are going to be affected, like our ones in the villages, as well as the ones in Hastings?
We'll certainly take back any feedback and change what we can. In terms of technical speak, sometimes yeah, absolutely, we do get tied up a little bit in technical speak, and apologies for that if it hasn't been clear. We do normally try and make it as clear as possible, and we'll take that feedback and amend anything that we've got, particularly on our website.
Our last question.
Thank you. You keep saying that you're comfortable with the decision. You keep saying you're going to take back soundings from this meeting. I'm trying to get in my mind actually who is ultimately responsible for the decision, who are you going back to report, and why is that person not here today to address these questions directly? Because I feel like we have very plausible arguments wrapped up in technical language, but we're still one step away from the final decision makers, and that's not democratic, and that's why we're not here today. We're here for us to be actually properly respected in a process that means that we are a part of the decision, not just consulted. I think in this country we've had enough of consultation, and this is where the buck's got to stop. So please, the people who originally put the fire station on the ridge did it for a reason, and that was it was there to protect the people of Hastings, St Leonard's and the villages except Rye. Why are you undermining their logic?
Thank you for that. Just in response, and Neal might have something to say as well. Comfortable in the decision? No decision has been made. I'm comfortable with the data analysis that we've done. The decision is for the Fire Authority, and I made that point quite clear at the start. It is for the Fire Authority to make the decision, and they'll make that decision on the 13th of December.
I was just going... Just a couple of moments on the consultation. There is more consultation, there is staff focus groups, there is public meeting going to be announced very soon, there is consultation with the business community. So I just want to make that point, that consultation is quite wide-ranging and varied within this area and neighbouring areas as well.
I'm sorry. Consultation, from day one when you'd made the decision, there should have been something that went out to say where the consultations were going to take place. You're now responding to what people are saying, but that's why I'm saying the consultation is flawed. It should have been from day one, what were you going to do, and putting those dates there. You're still not giving us the date when those meetings are going to take place.
Do you want to take the mic?
I haven't got the mic. That's all right. With the greatest respect, Councillor Fawthrop, I think you've heard that the consultation that you voted to go ahead with actually is deeply flawed. Not just because of the people that it is alienating and ignoring, but because this isn't what people wanted. I've got one question for you. When it comes back in December, will you be voting the right way?
No pressure at all. This is all about. This is all about obviously the consultation. Once the consultation comes back to the Fire Authority, we'll get all the paperwork some weeks before we make a decision. I'll read them all, as will my colleagues, the whole of us. The decision will be made on what you say, on what the officers say, and we've got to strike a balance. My view at this moment in time, is that I'll be against it, certainly. But let us see what the consultation says. What I'm hearing here, quite frankly, is yes, you're against it, fine. That's my job as a councillor to support you. That's what I'll do.
Okay, that now brings us to the end of our meeting. I'd like to thank the whole panel for coming. And I will just take Phil up on his idea of a vote. So all those that are in favour of the proposals, would you please raise your hand?
He's brave.
And all those against the proposals?
Carried.
I think that's a unanimous decision that you can take back with you. Please do sign the petitions at the back of the hall. Pick yourself a leaflet up. There is a Twitter and a Facebook campaign as well. Join that and we'll update you on dates of the proposals. Thank you very much.